It's 18 minutes after 7, coming up on 19 after 7. The final day of testimony in the Jodi Arias trial went late, wrapping up at about 8:30 last night.
Yeah, very, very late. And today's the day that both sides make their final argument, their closing argument. So we have our legal panel in this morning. Attorneys Dwane Cates, who is playing the role of the defense, and Brian Foster playing the role of the prosecution. Both have spent significant time in the courtroom during this trial. They know it very, very well. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming on with us. You want to start?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, Dwane, let's start with you. What, in your opinion, what did the prosecution do wrong here?
Well, I think the prosecution, especially yesterday, you know, the cross-examination went way too long. These were rebuttal experts. They really didn't hurt the prosecution's case very much. And Juan Martinez kept doing the same thing. He kept going on and on and on. And I think everybody, not just the jury, but everybody's going, let's just get on with it. Let's get to closing arguments.
Wearing them down, wearing the jury down. Brian, so what is your assessment of the defense then?
If you're asking about the defense yesterday, I think Dwane is a little incorrect. I think the defense spent most of the time examining their witnesses. I do agree that the witnesses at this point, I hate to say this, are pretty much meaningless. I mean, this jury wants the case to be over, and they're waiting for closing arguments, and I think both sides could have been a lot more succinct in what they did yesterday. Keeping the jury going until 9 o'clock at night was just ridiculous.
Dwane, Juan Martinez has gotten a lot of criticism during this trial, both good and bad. We've heard a ton of chatter. Do you think he was too overbearing as it's wrapping up here?
Well, you know, Juan Martinez is a very good prosecutor. I mean, we got to start with that. You know, my only criticism of him is that he's got one tool, and it's a hammer. You know, and he just hammers all the time. And when you use one tool all the time, when you're yelling all the time, it kind of gets like the Peanuts teacher, where it's just wah, 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 wah.
But does that create a negative impression with the jury at all, do you think?
Well, it can. I mean, you know, juries are strange. I mean, they pick out things that in cases that I've done, when I've gone back and talked to juries, they've talked about, you know, they didn't like somebody's tie, or, you know, they didn't like the way somebody was fidgeting with a pen at their desk. So you never know what they're paying attention to, and he very well could have made Jodi Arias more sympathetic.
Brian, what about the expert witnesses? Do they have any credibility at all? Or do expert witnesses have credibility, for that matter?
Well, you know what, in a lot of cases the experts are very important. In this particular case, I don't believe the experts are that important at all. I mean, all of this, you know, psychologists talking about PTSD or borderline personality disorder and the elements and tests that were done to determine what the case was. I think the jury could care less what the expert said. I think the jury is going to, as they should, use their own common sense and perception of what they believe or don't believe. You know, is it believable that she could not recall anything that happened after she allegedly shot him? I don't think the jury buys it for a second, and I think Martinez did a great job of hammering that home. So in my view, I think the experts cancel each other out, and the jury makes its mind up based on its own common sense and life experiences.
Dwane, you mentioned, you talked about Juan Martinez's strategy and kind of his demeanor and the way he hammers it home. But when it really comes down to it, did he do a good job of convincing the jury that this was first-degree murder? We know she killed him. She admits to killing him. But did he do a good job saying that, yeah, it is first-degree murder, not self-defense?
I don't think he did, and here's why. I don't think that their theory that she stabbed first. I think the theory that she stabbed first goes to second-degree murder, because why would you steal a gun, plan all this, do the gas cans, do the cell phone, get there, you've got him laying in bed sleeping next to you, you've got a gun, and you stab him first? Makes no sense.
I guess we're going to be short on time here, so I want to get to the closing statement. Brian, what would the key message be in your closing statement?
The key message to me is you can't believe a single word Jodi Arias said before she came into court, and during the trial. She lied on multiple occasions. She said hideous things about Travis Alexander, his sexual preference. He liked boys. None of it is corroborated, and I would tell the jury that they should disregard everything she said and focus on the physical evidence. And the physical evidence is clear that this was a premeditated, planned in advance killing. You've got the stolen gun from her grandparents' house a week before the murder. You've got the gas cans that she purchased so that she wouldn't have to stop and get gas. You've got the license plate that she removed. You've got incredibly strong evidence of first-degree murder here, and I would try to tone it down a little bit if I was Martinez and actually talk to the jury, explain it to them. I think that he's going to be making a big mistake if his closing argument is more than 2 hours. There's no corroboration for anything Jodi said, and I would just cancel her testimony out 100%, and I would actually try to talk to the jury more from the standpoint of Travis's family, his grieving family who've been in the courtroom, what a hideous experience this has been for them to have to relive this and to have Jodi lying every time she opened her mouth.
Okay, Brian, Dwane, your turn. What would be your key message to wrap this up?
Well, the key thing that I would focus on is heat of passion, that there was a fight in that bathroom. Let's face it, there were only 2 people in the bathroom that day when this happened, and it was Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander. Travis Alexander is dead and can't testify. You can't believe much of what Jodi says, so you have to go by what the physical evidence is. I agree. And the physical evidence is that there was an epic battle in that bathroom. There was blood everywhere. There were defensive wounds. You know, there was a big fight. Because if you've got heat of passion, if you've got a fight, that goes to second-degree murder, that goes to manslaughter, and that also goes to self-defense. And so I would focus on the evidence, and I would say you don't have to believe Jodi Arias in order for this, because she doesn't have to have been an abused woman to have acted in self-defense. She doesn't have to be an abused woman or have PTSD in order to have defended herself or had a sudden fight and stabbed Travis in.
Right. Yeah. You know, this is an interesting trial, and we got to wrap, but because there's so many different outcomes that can happen.
There's never a dull moment.
Yeah.
This whole entire trial just keeps you on your toes. Yeah.
All right.